It's time again for Northwestern Outdoors Radio, the show covering fishing, hunting, and all sorts of outdoor recreation and destinations right here in the region you live and play in. Northwestern Outdoors is brought to you every week by Max Lure Company, makers of the world-famous wedding ring spinner, by Loophole, America's Optics Authority, and by Sportsman's Warehouse, America's premier outfitter. Northwestern Outdoors is also sponsored by Wallowa County in Northeast Oregon, where you'll find both nature and fun. By Chad's Coast-Wide Sports Fishing, offering you the affordable Canadian fishing trip of a lifetime. And by Camp Chef, the way to cook outdoors. So grab your fishing rod or hunting gear, load up the boat or lace up your boots, and let's head outdoors with your host, John Cruz.
Welcome to the show. We've got a great one for you, and we put it together in one of my favorite places in the world, Wallowa County in Northeast Oregon. As a matter of fact, just got back from a great little spring hike there to a place called Falls Creek. You get this spectacular view of this waterfall, and if you keep hiking higher, you go above the waterfall, and you can keep going if you want, but for me, about an hour of hiking was enough. Got my workout, got my views in, and had a great time. That's just one of the things you can do in Wallowa County, and we're going to tell you about lots of other things you can do while you're there as well. One of them that ought to be on your bucket list is going up the Wallowa Lake Tramway. Mike Lockhart, who's one of the co-owners of the tramway, will tell you about this. It is truly incredible and the fastest and easiest way to get to the top of a mountain in Oregon State. We'll talk about the fish and fishing in Wallowa County too. We'll start off at this little oasis of a place called the Wallowa Fish Hatchery. And in addition to checking out the hatchery that produces trout and steelhead, you can go for a short and easy walk to check out the wildlife on a little nature trail they have there. Chad Aschenbrenner will tell you more about that. Speaking of fishing, Lance Mers joins us for an extended Max Minute to talk about some Northwest kokanee fishing destinations, including Wallowa Lake and a lure that you ought to be using in those lakes, and Wallowa Lake gave up the world record kokanee a few years ago, but then the population crashed. Well, guess what? Brad Snook at the Sports Corral in Joseph has got great news. That kokanee fishery is coming back in a big way. Now, after a day of fishing and hiking and wildlife watching and going up the tramway, you'll need a place to stay. We've got the perfect one for you. It's right on Wallowa Lake. It's the Wallowa Lake Lodge, and Jerry Riggs and Ellen Bishop will tell you more about that. But before we take you to Wallowa County, we need to talk about crappie fishing. That's one of the topics you'll hear this week on Sportsman Spotlight, hosted by David Sparks and sponsored on this show by Chad's Coast-Wide Sports Fishing, offering affordable, all-inclusive saltwater fishing vacations out of Port Hardy, BC. Find out more at coastwidesportsfishing.com.
Crappie fishing with Keith, David Sparks, Sportsman Spotlight. Last week we did a story on an operation known as Outdoors International, and the basic premise of their business model is to hook outdoorsmen up with outfitters who are very good at what they do, and that means that they screen the outfitters very carefully before they pair them up with clients, thus assuring a good experience for the sportsman who is going to pay good money for a great adventure. The point to all this is there are a lot of people in the outfitting business who say they do great things but don't. None of us like a BSer. That said, I'll tell you someone who tells it like it is. Sportsman's Warehouse sales associate Keith McDowell, who we talked to last week. Keith's the real deal, in every sense of the word. Talk to him about crappie fishing.
Bought a brand new crappie boat and doing tons of crappie fishing now. Crappie are moving in. Most of the lakes around here are starting to warm up. They're moving in into the shallows. They should be in there spawning here in western Washington probably within the next 3 weeks, 4 weeks. They should be in spawning. I'm sure there's a few smaller lakes or ponds they're spawning in now. So bobber and jigs will be the easy ticket for everybody to get them. Just tip those jigs with a little crappie nibble. You can use a slip bobber or a fixed bobber and get right down to them. You're only going to need to be fishing 2 to 3 feet down. They should be easy pickings for people then. Great eating fish too. A lot of people, they go out and they target all these trout and they forget about everything else that's in these lakes. There's a myriad of other fish in there that can be targeted. You don't have to target just the trout. Granted, the trout are always fun to catch.
See what I mean? Sportsman's Spotlight.
A quality and affordable fishing adventure is waiting for you off Vancouver Island with Chad's Coastwide Sports Fishing. Located in Port Hardy, British Columbia, you can drive or fly to your all-inclusive guided fishing vacation. Whether you're after big salmon, heart-fighting halibut, or a cooler full of red snapper and lingcod, you can catch it all here. Better yet, your lodging, meals, and fish processing are all taken care of. Want one more reason to go? The price. With the Canadian dollar exchange rate where it is right now, your U.S. dollar goes further. Space is limited, so go to coastwidesportsfishing.com to book your trip. That's coastwidesportsfishing.com for an incredible BC fishing adventure.
Leupold Gold Ring Optics are built to perform at the highest level, shot after shot, year after year. Our rifle scopes, binoculars, spotting scopes, rangefinders, and more always come through when you need them most. That's why our American-built products have a lifetime guarantee. Or as we like to say here at Leupold, they are guaranteed for a lifetime of performance, not a lifetime of replacement. Find out more about our top quality gear and our lifetime guarantee at leupold.com. Leupold, America's optics authority.
Sportsman's Warehouse is America's premier outfitter and has the quality gear you need for hunting, fishing, camping, and more. Our knowledgeable and friendly staff will help you find the right product so you get the most out of your time in the field or on the water. In addition to stocking superior clothing and outdoor equipment, we offer in-store events and seminars so you can enjoy a successful adventure. With over 70 stores located in the United States, it's easy to find a Sportsman's Warehouse store near you. Find out more at sportsmanswarehouse.com.
Wetlands are some of the most important ecosystems on Earth, but our wetlands are quickly disappearing. Find out how you can help. Join Ducks Unlimited today.
It's time again for Northwestern Outdoors Radio, the show covering fishing, hunting, and all sorts of outdoor recreation and destinations right here in the region you live and play in. Northwestern Outdoors is brought to you every week by Max Lure Company, makers of the world-famous wedding ring spinner, by Leupold, America's optics authority, and by Sportsman's Warehouse, America's premier outfitter. Northwestern Outdoors is also sponsored by Wallowa County in Northeast Oregon, where you'll find both nature and fun. By Chad's Coastwide Sports Fishing, offering you the affordable Canadian fishing trip of a lifetime. And by Camp Chef, the way to cook outdoors. So grab your fishing rod or hunting gear, load up the boat or lace up your boots, and let's head outdoors with your host, John Cruz.
Welcome to the show. We've got a great one for you, and we put it together in one of my favorite places in the world, Wallowa County in Northeast Oregon. As a matter of fact, just got back from a great little spring hike there to a place called Falls Creek. You get this spectacular view of this waterfall, and if you keep hiking higher, you go above the waterfall, and you can keep going if you want. But for me, about an hour of hiking was enough. Got my workout, got my views in, and had a great time. That's just one of the things you can do in Wallowa County, and we're going to tell you about lots of other things you can do while you're there as well. One of them that ought to be on your bucket list is going up the Wallowa Lake Tramway. Mike Lockhart, who's one of the co-owners of the tramway, will tell you about this. It is truly incredible and the fastest and easiest way to get to the top of a mountain in Oregon State. We'll talk about the fish and fishing in Wallowa County, too. We'll start off at this little oasis of a place called the Wallowa Fish Hatchery. And in addition to checking out the hatchery that produces trout and steelhead, you can go for a short and easy walk to check out the wildlife on a little nature trail they have there. Chad Aschenbrenner will tell you more about that. Speaking of fishing, Lance Mers joins us for an extended Max Minute to talk about some Northwest kokanee fishing destinations, including Wallowa Lake and a lure that you ought to be using in those lakes, and Wallowa Lake gave up the world record kokanee a few years ago, but then the population crashed. Well, guess what? Brad Snook at the Sports Corral in Joseph has got great news. That kokanee fishery is coming back in a big way. Now, after a day of fishing and hiking and wildlife watching and going up the tramway, you'll need a place to stay. We've got the perfect one for you. It's right on Wallowa Lake. It's the Wallowa Lake Lodge, and Jerry Riggs and Ellen Bishop will tell you more about that. But before we take you to Wallowa County, we need to talk about crappie fishing. That's one of the topics you'll hear this week on Sportsman Spotlight, hosted by David Sparks and sponsored on this show by Chad's Coastwide Sports Fishing, offering affordable, all-inclusive saltwater fishing vacations out of Port Hardy, BC. Find out more at coastwidesportsfishing.com. sportsmansfishing.com.
Crappie fishing with Keith, David Sparks, Sportsman Spotlight. Last week we did a story on an operation known as Outdoors International, and the basic premise of their business model is to hook outdoorsmen up with outfitters who are very good at what they do, and that means that they screen the outfitters very carefully before they pair them up with clients, thus assuring a good experience for the sportsman who is going to pay good money for a great adventure. The point to all this is there are a lot of people in the outfitting business who say they do great things but don't. None of us like a BSer. That said, I'll tell you someone who tells it like it is, Sportsman's Warehouse sales associate Keith McDowell, who we talked to last week. Keith's the real deal, in every sense of the word. Talk to him about crappie fishing.
Bought a brand new crappie boat and doing tons of crappie fishing now. Crappie are moving in. Most of the lakes around here are starting to warm up. They're moving in into the shallows. They should be in there spawning here in western Washington probably within the next 3 weeks, 4 weeks. They should be in spawning. I'm sure there's a few smaller lakes or ponds they're spawning in now. So bobber and jigs will be the easy ticket for everybody to get them. Just tip those jigs with a little crappie nibble. You can use a slip bobber, a fixed bobber, and get right down to them. You're only going to need to be fishing 2 to 3 feet down. They should be easy pickings for people then. Great eating fish, too. A lot of people, they go out, they target all these trout, and they forget about everything else that's in these lakes. There's a myriad of other fish in there that can be targeted. You don't have to target just the trout. Granted, the trout are always fun to catch.
See what I mean? Sportsman's Spotlight.
A quality and affordable fishing adventure is waiting for you off Vancouver Island with Chad's Coast-Wide Sports Fishing. Located in Port Hardy, British Columbia, you can drive or fly to your all-inclusive guided fishing vacation. Whether you're after big salmon, heart-fighting halibut, or a cooler full of red snapper and lingcod, you can catch it all here. Better yet, your lodging, meals, and fish processing are all taken care of. Want one more reason to go? The price. With the Canadian dollar exchange rate where it is right now, your U.S. dollar goes further. Space is limited, so go to coastwidesportsfishing.com to book your trip. That's coastwidesportsfishing.com for an incredible BC fishing adventure.
Leupold Gold Ring Optics are built to perform at the highest level, shot after shot, year after year. Our rifle scopes, binoculars, spotting scopes, rangefinders, and more always come through when you need them most. That's why our American-built products have a lifetime guarantee. Or as we like to say here at Leupold, they are guaranteed for a lifetime of performance, not a lifetime of replacement. Find out more about our top-quality gear and our lifetime guarantee at leupold.com. Leupold, America's optics authority.
Sportsman's Warehouse is America's premier outfitter and has the quality gear you need for hunting, fishing, camping, and more. Our knowledgeable and friendly staff will help you find the right products so you get the most out of your time in the field or on the water. In addition to stocking superior clothing and outdoor equipment, we offer in-store events and seminars so you can enjoy a successful adventure. With over 70 stores located in the United States, it's easy to find a Sportsman's Warehouse store near you. Find out more at sportsmanswarehouse.com.
Wetlands are some of the most important ecosystems on Earth, but our wetlands are quickly disappearing. Find out how you can help. Join Ducks Unlimited today.
You're back with Northwestern Outdoors Radio. I'm John Cruz. We're broadcasting from the north end of Wallowa Lake near Joseph, Oregon. Drop-dead gorgeous view of the lake, of the beach, of the Wallowa Mountains, and Mount Howard at the south end of the lake. And if you ever come here, you've got to take the Wallowa Lake Tramway up to Mount Howard. With us here to tell you more about why is the co-owner of this tramway, Mike Lockhart. Mike, great to have you back on the show.
Thanks for being here. It's a beautiful day to sit here and look at the snow-capped mountains.
Oh, it doesn't get much better than this. You're absolutely right. Whenever I'm at a sportsman show and people ask, what would I do in Wallowa Lake besides fishing and watching wildlife and hiking, I always tell them about the tramway. It's truly, in my opinion, a very unique adventure that belongs on everyone's bucket list. Why don't you break it down and describe, first of all, exactly what the tramway experience is?
Well, first of all, the physical aspects of the tramway is a 4,000 vertical feet gondola that goes from the base of roughly the lake up Mount Howard to the summit of the mountain. It's about a 15-minute ride. And when you get up there, the mountain is somewhat flat top. That's probably an exaggeration, but it has hiking trails of 2.5 miles that you can go around. From there, you get the views from the valley of Wallowa Valley, the river, the lake. You get the look out towards the east into Idaho at the Seven Devil Mountains. And of course, when you look right back at us, we get the Wallowa Mountains, which are, unbelievably beautiful.
Drop dead gorgeous is how I describe Mike. So let's talk about the history of the tramway itself. This obviously didn't build itself. How did a tramway come to Wallowa Lake, and where did it come from?
The tram was an idea of a lot of the local tourism people at the head of the lake that were able to put together some of the private land that was available, applied for a permit with the Forest Service, and then raised money through a stock sale, a corporate stock sale, and some seed money, and then obtained a loan from the Federal Home Farm Administration to build it. And they built it in 1969.
So the tramway that was built in 1969, obviously you have these gondola cars. And where did they come from? I mean, they look like they're right from a James Bond movie in the Swiss Alps.
Well, they're not the ones you see now are not the original. And in fact, the tramway has very, very few original parts on it. We are constantly, upgrading it and to keep it, in good shape and stuff like that. Those tram cars came from actually a company called CWA, which is a subcontractor to the company that provided all the tramway as a whole to the community. And they came from Switzerland. And you're right, they're not the 1969 variety. We actually bought a lift from Big Sky, Montana that they had taken down, and I bought them primarily to get the cabins. And after we brought them here and renovated them. In fact, they're going through their second renovation right now. But they do have that 4-passenger cabins. The more contemporary ones are larger now, and you see those. But these work fine for our purposes.
Well, the great thing about them, folks, is they're basically weatherproof. So you're going to be perfectly dry, perfectly warm as you're inside. And again, you got this 15-minute ride. And what's the highest you're off the ground? About 100 feet or so?
Oh, probably a little more than that. I think it's about 130 feet at Tower 4.
But at some places, you're just right above the trees in the ground.
That's true.
So you've got this experience where you're either really close to the ground or you're up a little ways, but not nearly as high up above the valley floor as you are when you get to the top. I mean, you're over 8,000 feet high when you get to the top of Mount Howard, aren't you?
Yeah, actually the top of the tramway is about 8,200, really close to that. And that's still not the top of the mountain. When you hike up, there's another 200 feet vertical on top of that. But the tram docks at about 8,200.
And folks, that's the great thing. I mean, you could kill yourself if you want to and hike to the top of these mountains of the Wallowas and in the Eagle Cap Wilderness, but you can do it the easy way. Save yourself all but 200 feet of elevation gain. Take the tramway up there and walk the 2.5 miles of trails. And like Mike said, the views are just amazing, especially on a clear day. You will have absolutely guaranteed that top of the world feeling when you get up there. And then you can go ahead and treat yourself to a nice lunch or a beer or a glass of wine. Tell us about the Summit Grill.
Well, yeah, that's something that's probably our number one activity up there is eating and drinking a little bit. It's really good. And we like to push the idea of see the Wallowa Mountains from the top down, The Wallowa Mountains are one of Oregon's 7 wonders. We have that prestigious designation now, and we are surely enjoying that. And it's well-deserved. I mean, I live here every day, and I don't think anybody in Wallowa County really takes this for granted.
Well, it's hard to take this for granted, hard to ever grow tired of a view like this. The grill itself, folks, it really, you really feel like, and they call this kind of like the little Swiss Alps here in Wallowa County, and there's a reason for that. You have that European feel, and the cafe, part of it's open air, and you get that same feeling, looking out over the snow-covered mountaintops, looking at the green valley below and the sparkling waters of Wallowa Lake. I mean, it's absolutely enchanting. Something else that we've talked about before, Mike, I mean, let's face it, you could charge a lot of money if you want to, because it's not like there's anywhere else for people to go up there to get a beer or a glass of wine or a soda pop or a sandwich, but you keep the rates very reasonable up there.
Yeah, we feel that we really want people to take advantage of it, and when they get there, not feel that they have been abused because we got them locked in jail or something. But yeah, we do, and we try to provide a good meal. We get quite busy at times with that, especially lately. Like I said, the Seventh Wonder thing has been phenomenal to tourism in this area, and we really enjoy that designation.
One other thing you're going to see up there, ladies and gentlemen, besides the incredible views, is a lot of wildlife. There's lots of wildlife, and they all seem to be very hungry. Tell us about some of the animals and birds you're going to see up there.
Well, of course, we have deer and elk running around up there. Probably the most prolific, though, are the ground squirrels. We have golden mantle squirrels, and we have typical Eastern Oregon red digger, and they're all over. They are very attuned to the guests having food, and although we're trying not to feed them for environmental reasons, and in fact the Forest Service kind of wants us to refrain from training people to do that.
All right, so we're going to officially tell you not to feed the animals. Moving on, when is the tramway open for folks to enjoy?
We're starting this weekend, and we'll be going through May, weekends only. Starting June 1st, we'll be open every day from June 1st to October 1st. July 1st marks our mid-season, our middle strong season, and that's when we're doing things like early morning breakfasts and live music every afternoon, cowboy poet once in a while, and we have a little fun with all that stuff up there. So, you know, it's all part of the experience at Wallowa Lake Tramway.
And a great experience it is, folks. I'm telling you, this really needs to be on your bucket list. If you haven't done it once, you're going to do it 2 or 3 times once you've done it the first time. It's just that cool of an experience. What's the website so folks can find out more, Mike?
WallowaLakeTramway.com.
That's WallowaLakeTramway.com, WallowaLakeTramway.com. Check out the website and head on over here to Wallowa Lake and take in the tramway. You're going to love it. Mike, thanks for telling us about this on Northwestern Outdoors Radio.
Thanks a lot, John. It's been fun talking to you.
You demand quality performance from your binoculars, whether you use them in the field, on the water, or at a stadium. But you don't want to spend a fortune. That's where the BX McKenzie binoculars from Leupold come in. These armored, waterproof binoculars are both comfortable and dependable. Look for your McKenzie binoculars at quality sporting goods retailers near you, to include your Cabela's, Sportsman's Warehouse, or Northwest Bi-Mart stores. BX McKenzie, bringing your world into sharper focus, only from Leupold.
The 2-burner camp stove has evolved, and today's line of portable camp stoves from Camp Chef have come a long way from your father's propane stove, featuring matchless ignition, more cooking power, and in some cases a built-in grill or extra burner. And you've got what you need to whip up some great grub in the field. Look for the complete line of Mountain Series stoves at your local sporting goods store. Camp Chef, the way to cook outdoors. You're back with more of the great outdoors on Northwestern Outdoors Radio with John Cruz.
It's time for another Max Minute.
Fish on.
Brought to you every week by Max Lure Company. With us again, Lance Mers. And Lance, let's talk about some of the better kokanee fishing destinations around the Northwest. When you think of places to go catch kokanee, what comes to mind? And don't say Lake Chelan, because that seems to be the first thing that just about everybody thinks about when they're talking about kokanee.
Well, it's because it's a destination mecca, John.
Well, of course it is. Of course it is. But there's a lot of other places in the Northwest to catch kokanee.
Absolutely. You know, there's all sorts of good places. Lake Roosevelt's a good one. Lake Pend Oreille over in Idaho. Hayden Lake over in Idaho. You know, then you go farther south. You know, you got Yale Lake, you got Odell, you got Merwin. There's all sorts of lakes that have great kokanee fishing in them.
Another couple that come to mind for me, Dvorak Reservoir is starting to make a comeback over there in Idaho. We have the world record kokanee, of course, that was caught out of Wallowa Lake. Now, that population basically busted a few years back, but I expect to see that fishery starting to build back up. I wouldn't be surprised if it's as early as this year, and I think you're going to start seeing some of those bigger kokanee again. Green Peter Reservoir is another great place in Oregon to go catch kokanee.
Well, kokanee are cyclic fish. So if you're fishing a body of water and the fishing isn't so good, wait a couple of years and you'll get back into it. But one of the things that I like to use is called the Double Whammy Kokanee Pro. And it's basically a wedding ring, okay? And it's got a UV maxillary smile blade, and it's got 2 hooks on it that don't have a gap in them at all. Because kokanee have such soft mouths, it allows you to get a better hookup. And I always say that 2 hooks are better than 1.
Well, there you go. We've given you all sorts of ideas on where to go kokanee fishing here in the Northwest, and now you know what lure to use. It's the Double Whammy Kokanee Pro. Look for it at a sporting goods store near you or online at maxlure.com.
Looking for that extra something that will get more salmon or trout into your boat? Then check out the Double D Dodger from Max Lure. The Double D does double duty and helps you catch more fish. The Double D's flash attracts lunkers, and the Dodger's patented stop-start action works wonders to get those fish biting. The Double D does even more by acting as a side planer to get your bait away from the boat where the fish are more likely to be and more apt to strike. The Double D Dodger. It's the Dodger you've got to have from Max Lure.
The road is calling you to experience one of Oregon's 7 wonders, the Wallowas. So grab your camping equipment and fishing gear and head out to Northeast Oregon, where you'll find the views are endless, the air crisp and clean, and the water's cold and clear. Set up camp by the shores of Wallowa Lake or in the heart of the Wallowa-Whitman National Forest. Take your fishing gear and cast your bait into the deep waters of Wallowa Lake, or roll your fly into one of the eddies of the many freestone creeks and rivers teeming with fish. This summer, take the road that leads to wonders. It begins at WallowaCountyChamber.com.
Want to go fishing and make money? You are in luck. This year's Pike Minnow Sport Reward Fishery kicks off May 1st. Just register at a check station and go fishing for 9-inch or longer northern pike minnow within designated waters of the Columbia or Snake River. Then you bring your fish back and collect a voucher good for a cash reward. The more fish you catch, the more they're worth. $5, $6, and $8 per fish. Catch a pike minnow with a special tag and you've landed $500. Find out more at pikeminnow.org. That's pikeminnow.org.
Welcome back to Northwestern Outdoors Radio. I'm John Cruz. We are broadcasting from the Wallowa Fish Hatchery. It's located in Enterprise, Oregon. And in your mind, you're probably imagining some rearing ponds that are built out of cement. And yeah, we got that. But this place is much more than that. It's actually a little bit of an oasis, for lack of a better word, that you're going to find here that's full of both fish and wildlife. With us here to tell you more about this special place in the shadow of the Wallowa Mountains is Chad Eschenbrenner, who has the good fortune of working here. Chad, welcome to the show.
Hi.
Chad, let's go ahead and talk about the fish hatchery here. We'll kind of move through some of the amenities as we go along. First things first, the fish hatchery started in the 1920s. Lots of improvements made over the years. And in 1985, the hatchery basically became what it is today, a place that rears rainbow trout and steelhead. How many fish does this hatchery produce every year?
We produce about 1 million steelhead eggs, and out of that 1 million steelhead eggs, we get back 800,000 steelhead smolts, and we release 800,000 smolts to go to the ocean.
And let's educate people about the math involved when it comes to smolts versus adult returns. How many of those fish do you expect back in a few years?
Out of those 800,000 smolts, we actually only get back around 1% or maybe even less than 1%. So if we get 5,000 in a year between our two facilities, that's a pretty darn good year.
And those being hatchery fish, they are going all the way into the ocean. They're coming back up the Columbia, up the Snake River, up the Grand Ronde, up the Wallowa. Let's go ahead and talk a little bit more about the steelhead while we're on the topic here. Hatchery steelhead versus wild steelhead. There was a time when a lot of hatcheries used what was called the Chambers Creek strain of steelhead, and there were real problems with that strain, weren't there?
Yes, there have been. We've tried to go to more local stocks of steelhead that are more adapted up to the area.
And folks, back in the day, if you are a steelhead fisherman, you know exactly what I'm talking about here. You'd hook a steelhead in a stream where there's both wild steelhead and hatchery steelhead, and within seconds, you knew whether or not you had a hatchery fish on. And why is that, Chad?
In the past, they were hatchery fish, and they just didn't fight very well.
They didn't. Very seldom went airborne. You'd get them in a lot easier. They just didn't have the genetics. They didn't have the strength. They didn't have everything that those wild fish have. But things have changed, and you and other people working for the Oregon Department of Fish and Wildlife have made a conscious effort to improve the genetics of the fish that are released out of this hatchery and others here in Oregon.
That's right, yeah. We have actually started this fall brood steelhead program where we've collected fish down in the lower Grand Ronde River around Troy with a lot of volunteer help. And out of those fish, we've created kind of a new strain that actually return earlier to the area and present themselves to the fishermen better, I guess is an easy way to say it.
They fight better, they're stronger, and genetically, they're just superior, aren't they?
I sure hope they are.
Spoken like a true biologist. All right, let's turn our attention to the rainbow trout you have here. They're for an entirely different purpose, aren't they?
That's right. Our rainbows are more of a put and take type of fishery. We raise about 60,000 rainbows here.
The fish that you raise here, where are they released?
Our rainbows go around to local closed water bodies, so it's a lake or a pond in Wallowa County, Union County, and Baker County.
So Wallowa Lake is obviously a beneficiary of this hatchery program, but there's other lakes too, and some of them are lowland lakes, and I understand that you even stock some of the high lakes with these fish.
That's right. It's actually a different program where we just put out fry, but yes, we do. We stock 10 ponds in the Eagle Cap Wilderness with trout fry and provide fishery up there.
So, Chad, another question for you about the trout and the steelhead that are released here. There's a real economic benefit to Wallowa County in terms of these fish provide recreation, and a lot of tourists come here to Wallowa County to experience the fishing.
That's right. We have hundreds of people that visit the hatchery. You know, it's a really great thing. I'm really happy that I can see that and help people out with, the fisheries.
As a matter of fact, folks, here's my recommendation. Before you fish, come to the hatchery. Check out all the fish. You're going to get yourself psyched up, kind of like getting psyched up before the big game, and then go hit the water, because as many fish as there are here in the hatchery, there's even more waiting for you in the lakes and rivers of Wallowa County. One other thing I want to talk about here, you've got this unique little trail that kind of goes past the rearing ponds, and it follows this babbling brook, and there's a pond on both sides, and there's a ton of wildlife.
That's right, yeah. There's white-tailed deer and raccoons and otters and all the wetland type animals around.
So the bottom line is this, folks. Make it a point to stop by the Wallowa Fish Hatchery, because you can check out the fish and what's going on here, take a little walk, check out the wildlife. It's a short but incredibly scenic little trail, and you're going to have a great hour or so. Bring a lunch, have a picnic, and just have a great time here. Chad, thanks for all you're doing here, especially for all of us anglers, and thanks for sharing this with us on Northwestern Outdoors Radio.
Thank you for coming. I really appreciate it.
Next up on Northwestern Outdoors Radio, we're bringing you a fishing report, and we're talking with our old friend Brad Snook at the Sports Corral in Joseph, Oregon. Brad, I've been hearing rumors that the kokanee fishery is back at Wallowa Lake. True or false?
True. A lot more fun to talk about it this spring than our last few.
I'll give it to you. You called it. When we talked last fall, you said it was coming back. You expected to see kokanee up to 16 inches. Have we made that 16-inch mark and maybe even more?
Yes, we have. We've heard up to 17-inch, and not just one fish, but better, healthy fish on all sizes. I'd say 9 to 15-inch pretty commonly. And again, some sides on them so you get something to eat as well.
Well, that is an improvement, because last year when we talked, it was like 9 to 11 inches, and they weren't that meaty, so to speak. So to get the meaty fish of 9 to 15, to get the occasional 17-incher, definitely we are on the upswing again, aren't we?
Yes, very much so.
So we obviously need to tell people how to catch them. Every lake's a little bit different. When it comes to Wallowa Lake, what is the favorite in terms of techniques for catching these fish?
Well, mostly trolling is people's first choice here, but jigging is successful, and depending on the day, people are learning to go back and forth. Shoe peg corn and live maggots are the bait of choice.
When it comes to trolling, are they trolling hoochies behind sling blades or double D Dodgers?
Yes, sling blades are real popular. The old school Jack Lloyds are still Grandpa's old favorite.
Wow.
Wedding ring family, hoochie family, or the Apex from Canada is a flatfish.
All right, all tried and true techniques. Any particular colors that seem to work better at Wallowa Lake than others?
Orange and silvers.
You caught my curiosity with something you said there. I have never heard of jigging for kokanee before. I've always just heard of trolling for them. How do you go about jigging for these? What do you use and how do you do it?
Well, that's hunting fish because you're watching your fish finder for the schools, and a P-line kokaneator is very popular.
What size in particular?
3/4 ounce. They've quit making a 1 ounce. At 1 ounce, it's called a crystal minnow, and a little different color stories there.
So again, are we looking at something with an orange flavor to it?
Orange or pink, yes.
All right, well, there you go. You heard it first here. You can jig for kokanee, and you can do it at Wallowa Lake. One other thing I want to talk about. When I was at the fish hatchery, I saw a sign of the fish in Wallowa Lake, and I saw lake trout were present, and I was told by Chad Aschenbrenner there that there's lake trout in Wallowa Lake. You've never told me this before.
Well, we like to have a secret or two.
So tell me about the Mackinac fishing here. I mean, are they good numbers, and how big do they get?
Numbers are decent. They tried to kill them back in the 50s, so it was a small population that made it. But yes, there's a decent population. Fishing there starts at 85 or 90 feet and deeper typically.
What's the biggest one you've seen come out of this lake?
Just under 40 pounds.
That is a Mackinac. All right. Again, you've heard it here first. 2 things about Wallowa Lake you probably didn't know before. Number 1, there's really big lake trout here. And number 2, you can jig for kokanee. Who would have thunk? Let's tell folks about the Sports Corral. What days and hours are you open here in Joseph so folks can come on here and get stocked up for their trip?
Well, we're just through Saturday in May, but Memorial Day weekend we'll go to a full 7-day, 8 o'clock to 6 o'clock. We cheat on Sunday, 10 to 4.
All right, so there you go. After May, they're open every day, all summer long. It's a Sports Corral. They've got everything you need, not just for fishing, but pretty much anything you're going to do around here outdoors. Come check them out. Brad and his crew will help you out. Always a pleasure, Brad, to hear from you on Northwestern Outdoors Radio.
Thank you very much.
Clear Lake, Bass Lake, Otter Lake, Goose Lake, Gull Lake, Round Lake, Pearl Lake, Rice Lake, Sugar Lake, Mud Lake, Long Lake, Ant Lake, Swan Lake, and Lake of the Woods. Oh, I fish everywhere.
Backcountry hunters and anglers, the men and women working hard to keep public lands in public hands. Check us out at backcountryhunters.org.
Welcome back to Northwestern Outdoors Radio. I'm John Cruz. We're broadcasting from the back deck of Wallowa Lake Lodge. It looks like a national park lodge, and the setting certainly looks like you're in a national park. We've got all this beautiful green space in front of us. We've got Ponderosa Pine, and then we've got 5 Mile Long Wallowa Lake. It's just gorgeous here. And with us to tell you more about it is Jerry Riggs and Ellen Bishop. Ladies, welcome to the show.
Thank you. Good morning.
Thank you. Good morning.
Jerry, you're the general manager here, so let's start off with exactly what folks are going to find here. What's available here in terms of rooms, accommodations, and more at Wallowa Lake Lodge?
Well, they're here because, as you exactly said, it's like being in a state park. That's the reason people come here. They've been coming here all their life, many of them. They're bringing their children. Their generations have been here. This is full service, so we've got 21 rooms and 8 cabins, so 30 units altogether. Full service breakfast and dinner, lunches to go, group space. So there's a lot of reasons people come here, mostly for the environment.
Oh, absolutely. And again, folks, I can't say enough. In the background, you might hear the breeze blowing. You might hear the brook that's right beside us flowing into the lake. It really is a gorgeous place to make a base camp as you explore not just the lake, but the Eagle Cap Wilderness that's right behind us as well. Ellen, why don't you tell our listeners a little bit about the history of this lodge, because it's pretty darn interesting.
It really is, John. We are a lodge that was built in 1923 initially from trees that were cut on this property and milled right here. And the lodge has always been in local ownership. It's a place that people from Wallowa County have come to recreate, to enjoy life at the lake. And it's a place that was put up for auction by its owner in 2014. Local investors looked at the auction brochure and said, we don't want to have that kind of development, which might have included 80 or more condominiums or 40 trophy homes. We wanted to preserve this place as natural as possible, and consequently local investors got together, worked with the owner, and were able to raise the funds to purchase it for $2.5 million. Along with that, let me also add that the Nez Perce tribe is involved in terms of purchasing a conservation easement here to ensure that this property retains its ecological integrity throughout time.
Well, thank goodness you were able to save this place, because it would be heartbreaking to see this as a condominium develop. It would absolutely wreck the whole neighborhood, and I mean that. And let's talk a little bit about the lodge again, Jerry. I remember reading years back, there was an article about best national park lodges. And even though we're not in a national park, this place was mentioned in it. And I think it's because of, number one, it just has that look to it. But the rooms, they're simple. And, you're encouraged not to spend time in your rooms, but to go outside. Do they even have televisions in them?
Nope. No televisions.
And that's a good thing, for that reason.
Yes.
And what are some of the other things that you don't have that folks might be used to that's going to encourage them to go outside and enjoy nature instead?
Well, we don't have those annoying devices called telephones, although most people have cell phones, so if they need to reach us, they can. Well, we do and we don't have wireless. We have wireless at Spotty, and definitely in the lobby we have wireless. So it's available if you want it, but, people don't come to us and say, we want it here now. They say exactly the opposite. Thank you. We like that you don't have that. We love being here. It's like being in a national park, as we keep coming back to. And we have no intention at this time to change that.
Ellen, what else would you like to add?
Well, I'd like to add that this is probably the only lodge where you can sit on the lawn and watch bald eagles feeding their young and have golden eagles fly over the top of you. So it's a pristine, beautiful, natural setting.
It really is, folks. And again, you could spend hours just here on the back deck soaking it all in. If the weather's not that great, there's a beautiful area inside right off the lobby, and there's a fireplace there that you can enjoy. And you've got a great restaurant. We just had breakfast. It was fantastic. Tell our folks about the chefs that you have here and the food that you have here.
Well, we have two chefs, and they're both local gentlemen, Norm Sen and Ron Meyer. We're very proud of both of them and excited to have them here. And the intent this year is to celebrate the local products, local eggs, local beef, local pork, local chicken. And we intend on doing that. So those that have an opportunity to be here and eat here will see that we're following that to the T.
And something you're known for, Marionberry pancakes in particular.
Marionberry pancakes, cobblers, fresh-made cobblers, fresh making our own pastries, probably for the first time in a long time. And weather permitting, we will soon have our outdoor patio seating here, and we will be able to serve outdoors. And again, the food is wonderful, the wine is great, and the view is unsurpassed.
And folks, you are at an outdoorsy place when you can order pan-fried trout for breakfast, and that's something that you can do right here. Let's go ahead and talk about one other thing, Jerry, and that's the fact that, yes, I know during the summer months you have lots of couples that are here in the lodge, you have lots of families that are in the cabins, but I look at this place and I think to myself, this is a great venue to host events. In fact, you've got the Nature Conservancy here right now. This seems ideal for groups of up to 50 people or so?
Yes, 50. We've even done up to 100. It's a little challenging when you get to that number, but we have the Portland Garden Club coming in soon. We're hosting weddings, and can you imagine a better place than to have your wedding outdoors here? And even in the winter, having it indoors by the fireplace, more intimate settings. So, it's appealing to those that want to host events here. Locals host events here, not locals host events here, and family events, family reunions, and so forth. So, it's a wonderful place to be.
And when folks come here, Ellen, the great thing about being here at the south end of Wallowa Lake is all the outdoor recreation available. And it starts literally just like 100 yards away, maybe 200 yards away, at the state park. You've got the marina right there where you can rent boats, you can launch your own boat, and right behind you got the Eagle Cap Wilderness. And oh yes, there's that tramway we've talked about in the show too. I'm just guessing tons of people come here and just go non-stop playing outside.
Yeah, exactly. And we have the Eagle Cap Wilderness within walking distance here. We have the tramway within walking distance. And if you're not interested in going for long distances or even, doing the tramway, there are beautiful nature walks on the 10-acre grounds that we have here. We have old-growth trees. And in fact, a local museum called Wallowology sponsors nature hikes around the lodge property in order to help people understand the difference between different kinds of trees and to find wildflowers and mushrooms and all kinds of other things. So you can have paradise right here at your back door. You don't even need to hike into the Eagle Cap.
And one thing about being here at the south end of Wallowa Lake is the wildlife comes to you. Mule deer are pretty common here on the lawn, aren't they?
They're very common, and in fact, they've been known to just sleep under the porch during the day, and occasionally one or two of them wander into the lodge lobby. I don't think they've ever ordered anything in the restaurant, but that could be coming up.
We have got to go. But folks, as you can tell, if you are looking for a wonderful place to spend time, whether it be this spring, this summer, this fall, or even this winter, consider a